We'll have our back to school greatest hits edition in just a few minutes. Now what I want to do is give you guys the total cases of COVID-19. 181, that's 103K, over 100,000. 2 new deaths. State of Texas, 13,654, 56 deaths. New deaths. 45 people, over 4,500 people are in ICU. 39,000 people have been hospitalized. Vaccinations, 75.9%, 63.2, 21.7 million, and 18.1 have been fully vaccinated. In the U.S., 604 million doses have been given. 223 million people have been fully vaccinated, and 67.8% of the population has been fully vaxxed. So what about the spreadsheets? Still in stage 2. In our schools, there has been no new cases, except for one junior high student on the 21st and on the 26th with the intermediate schools. One from the district on the 29th, and the other from the 27th. The main reason why all of this happens is because nobody is vaccinated. That's the whole reason. Nobody's vaccinated. They're going up against the religion. You tell someone, hey, you should be vaccinated, they tell you, no, it's against my religion. Break your religion every now and then. Get yourself vaccinated, but don't tell anyone. We have to keep safe here. There's a virus out there, and I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be acting like all like Sheldon Cooper when he's like, what kind of sick are you in? This and that and the other. There's no excuse. If, like, really. Let me tell you, I'll tell you this. We watch those COVID dodgers dodge COVID because they've been wearing their masks, they've been socially distanced, and all of that. But nobody else understands. But why does COVID-19 look and feel different? Take a look.
Into the pandemic, we know or have heard of someone who was reinfected with COVID-19.
Our Ashley Gonzalez spoke with a local health expert who explains why reinfections might happen and how common it is for the second or even third time to look different. It is our top story at 10.
Here's Ashley Gonzalez.
Raise your hand if you know someone who had COVID more than once. My brother is one of those people. So along with Dr. Omnifrak, I caught up with him and what his experience was like. Check it out. Hey, brother.
What's up, dude? How are you?
This is Anthony, my big brother. He caught COVID more than once.
I was living in San Antonio. I got it in June of 2020. First go around, it was very minor. The only reason I know I had it was because I was trying to eat food and I realized I couldn't taste it.
He says even though that first go around wasn't too bad, he couldn't say the same thing about round 2.
I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to see the light of day. I felt legitimately lethargic. I felt almost paralyzed from the headache I received. But once it started dissipating, then things gradually started getting back to normal after maybe 2 days.
He fully recovered in a week.
Happily vaccinated, boosted and everything.
In other cases, people can get it more than twice.
There are reports of people who've had it 3 times, or the ones that I've talked to, my patients. The first time it was before we even had any vaccinations. The second time they were vaccinated, but it had mutated to Omicron.
Dr. Onufrak says it's no surprise. A lot of folks are picking up the virus multiple times.
Our booster is almost a year ago, and we know that our immunity, unfortunately, wanes over time.
She says vaccinated or not, reinfections can happen, but long-term health issues are more likely in people who haven't been vaccinated at all.
It can cause permanent damage. It can, cause permanent heart damage, permanent kidney damage. People are having respiratory issues from the first time they had COVID, and so their body is already weakened, and then you put another infection on top of that, it's just going to find that weak spot and weaken it even more.
She also says it's not too late. Free testing and vaccines are still being provided by the health department. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Ashley.
And that's again, we have to make sure we're vaccinated, social distance, all that stuff. Quarantine. Stay in the house for 5 days. After the 5th day, get tested again. Don't leave the area unless you got to take out the trash, go do something. Don't do it. You're breaking quarantine. If you get infected again, get boosted. Just get boosted. Let's get back to doing things we love to do. Coming up next, teacher-student sex scandals. Why is this happening? A look at some cases, especially the one I saw in Dr. Phil 2 to 3 times. Jennifer Caswell, known to her students as Mrs. Sexton. And later, our back to school greatest hits. This time, it's all about them school lunches. Stay with us. So a new school year begins, and your child goes on saying how much he loves one of his teachers. And you say, good, I hope you want something from them. But what if you realize that one of your children in school was dating a teacher? It's the scandal going on all around the headlines every year. Tonight, a look at cases involving teachers and students. Why is this happening? How is this happening? And what can be done? We start with a case that happened 2 months ago in Pittsburgh, where a music teacher was charged after husband reports of alleged sex. We don't know what happened. So,
Relationship with a student.
Shelley Bortz is live with what she just learned about.
so take a look.
Shocking allegations against another teacher at a local school, a music teacher charged with having an inappropriate relationship with a student. And that teacher replaced another music teacher 2 years ago who also allegedly had a relationship with a student.
Shelley Bortz is live with what she just learned about the investigation. Shelley.
Well, you're right. Olivia Orts replaced the music teacher here at Wilmington Area School District 2 years ago after he lost his job for alleged inappropriate relationships with several students. He's awaiting trial.
As soon as it was discovered, it was reported to Childline, it was reported to us.
Police were alerted to a possible romantic relationship between then choir director Olivia Orts and a 17-year-old student by the high school principal in April. The month-long investigation, police say, turned up a treasure trove of evidence to support the claim, including text messages, a love letter, and overnights here at Orts' home while her husband was out of town.
He believed that it was an adult male that she was having a relationship with. She told him it wasn't what he thought, which certainly turned out to be accurate, and she ended up admitting that the letter was from a female student.
On May 5th, police executed a search warrant on the Orts home and confiscated a cell phone and iPad. Police say the two continued to communicate and exchanged 100 messages during a 2-day period last week until they got caught.
The two of them exchanged over 100 surreptitious communications using a music app so nobody would discover it.
We went to Orts' parents' home in Hermitage where she is staying and knocked on the door. Her father greeted us. Is she home?
She's home, she's no comment.
Okay, would you like to make a comment, sir?
I don't know.
Now, Orts is being charged with intercourse and sexual conduct with a school student, as well as unlawful contact with a minor. Now, she's due in court next week.
And that's statutory rape. In any of the 50 states, that is statutory rape. Brittany Samar from 3 years ago was charged with the same thing. An Arkansas 8th grader was charged with sexual assault of a student. These are student cases.
Good evening and welcome to Fox 33 News First at 9. I'm Alexandra Meacham. In tonight's top story, a judge issues a felony warrant for an Arkansas teacher accused of having sex with a student. Price McKeon reports.
This Dardanelle groomer is also a mother.
As a parent, that's just mortifying.
Mary Lane tries to digest that a local teacher is accused of having sex with a teen.
At the same time, you've also got to look at both sides. Did it really happen?
Prosecutors formally charged Crystal Vega Friday with felony sexual assault. According to court documents, the 40-year-old, quote, admitted she had a texting relationship and that some of their texts had crossed the line.
Inappropriate. Totally inappropriate.
A Google search of Vega shows she's an 8th grade teacher at Dardanelle, but when we click the link Saturday, the page no longer exists.
I would be livid as a parent because there's nothing you can't say to my child after school. There's nothing.
According to court documents, last month a 16-year-old reported to Russellville police that he had sex with a teacher at a park. Vega admitted that she met the victim at the park, but denied sex, according to the same court document.
If she admitted to it, then by all means, that's just not okay.
As this case starts to play out in a Polk County court, this mom will wait to see what happens. Reporting in Dardanelle, I'm Price McKeon.
And this will no longer be complete without the icing on the cake. I'm talking about Jennifer Caswell. She appeared on Dr. Phil years ago in an exclusive interview to share her side of the story about what had happened. Now, let me give you the full details of this. It was 2014 or something when an 8th grade student started flirting with Miss Saxton. She should have put a stop to it. But what you have here, a flirty student, somebody didn't put a stop to it. What does that mean to you? Well, it means that you didn't have the skills to you didn't even put a stop to it. So she just let it happen. Months go by. Now remember, she worked for the school for several years, and she was an actual teacher. Then the student walked in and started having sex with her months after she became the teacher. And at that time, he denied that there was a relationship. Like, oh, we're just friends and all. Then she filed for the divorce, resigned, and then when the kid went to summer camp, she drove a lot of miles. The police were there, and she was arrested and charged with that. Now she's registered as a sex offender. So we know so far. you want to watch the interview, we'll have the link in the description below. What you really need to do, if your teacher's having a bad day, just try to lift up her spirits with trying to just on the shoulder. Don't touch the teacher, but just don't let it happen like it did. Like the reason these happens because it's always because of the victim. The victim's the student, the suspect, perpetrator is just that's. I mean, again, that's statutory rape. Any of the 50 states, statutory rape. That's all the teacher-student sex scandals I can find. And there could be more, but I'm not going to spend the rest of the time looking into this. But we'll do this next time on our greatest hits sometime next week. When we return, speaking of our greatest hits, when we return, our greatest hits, this time's all about them school lunches and our dress codes. Stay with us. Let's bring up to date on some issues, on the stories we're focusing on. Just hours ago, Will Smith apologized. Now, we first told you about this after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Grammys. He is now suspended for 10 years for what he did. Well, just yesterday, he posted an apology saying that he was sorry for slapping Chris Rock, but he's still suspended. We told you about Uvalde and giving you the very latest on what's happened. Now, there are new details in this case. Just yesterday, Governor Greg Abbott spent hours at the fundraiser after the shooting. According to the Dallas News Report. According to the Dallas Morning News. Now, the principal of Hobbs Elementary has been reinstated after she was put on administrative leave for not knowing about the security issues. School board's meeting, Pete Arnondo's job could be on the line. And only him and his attorney could, they could decide. When we return, our greatest hits, school lunches, and our dress code. Our greatest hits continues. Looking back at some of the issues we talked about as next week's going to be the start of August and the month of our back to school. As our back to school month ends. So, let's look at some of my favorites, like the uproar at school lunches from Nightline. Or from Diane Sawyer. I mean, it was from Jim Avila, but we don't know if it was from Nightline or from something else. So this is the uproar over school lunches from ABC News back in 2012.
Food fight sweeping school cafeterias nationwide. It's only been a month since new federal guidelines mandating healthy school lunches went into effect, but many students are already finding them hard to swallow. With cafeteria fare now calorie restricted, some kids are complaining that their lunch doesn't fill them up and turning to YouTube to make their voices heard. Here's ABC's Jim Avila.
You need a fruit or vegetable, sweetie pie?
It's a noble effort, but an ABC News investigation shows the USDA's new school lunch guidelines are not going down so well with many kids across the country. America's public school students protesting the new federal war on child obesity with guidelines promoting smaller portions, fewer calories, less meat and cheese, and more fruits and vegetables, all aimed to control obesity, which kills more Americans than any cancer. Some of the protests hit the internet in dramatic fashion, like this lunchroom revolt.
Give me some seconds, I need to get some food today. My friends are at the corner store getting junk so they don't waste away.
Students at this Kansas high school creating a viral video protesting the new calorie-cutting menus in their cafeteria. The new rules limit elementary schoolers to 650 calories, 700 calories for middle schoolers, and 850 for high schoolers.
It's roughly the same amount of calories, but it's a different mix of how you get to those calories, and we think it's based on the science is a more nutritious mix.
But the result of all that healthy food, say many parents and kids, is a dramatic increase in plate waste.
Sometimes the food is just nasty.
In fact, the only known study of food waste under the new guidelines contains a startling statistic. Kids are now throwing away twice as much food as last year.
If you just plop the vegetables and plop the fruit there and don't do anything else, waste goes up. Waste goes up about 97%.
We visited a school in suburban Chicago just this month where middle schoolers analyzed their lunch waste and were shocked to find 46 boxes of unopened pears.
They're all unopened, totally unopened.
The week before, all 111 vegetable containers served were thrown away.
Schools tell us that they're seeing a 50% increase in the amount of lunchroom trash.
Which is too healthy almost.
I try my hardest, but it does not working.
Angie Reynolds at Virginia's Holston High School says kids are bringing their own and only take the fruits and vegetables when she forces them. They complain the food is tasteless.
A lot of it is going in the trash.
The secret ingredient, perhaps missed most by the students and even the lunch ladies, is so secret it's hidden way back here in the supply room behind a locked door and underneath one of the boxes. That ingredient? Salt. The new school lunch rules place limits on salt, ketchup, and sugar, flavors kids crave.
The first rule of food is that nobody's going to get any nutrition out of it if you don't eat it. The trash can does nothing for you nutritionally.
But the USDA says it's working in some schools.
We're seeing elementary school children probably more receptive to this than high school students, which is understandable because high school students have gone through perhaps 10 or 12 years of schools with a different sort of formula.
And that Cornell study finds there are creative ways to cut down on plate waste, that by moving the healthy choices to the front of the buffet and making up names for vegetables like power beans or X-ray vision carrots, plate waste will drop dramatically.
That's what makes all the difference in whether it's eaten or thrown out.
Oh, they love salad.
Moves that could help the modern-day lunch lady cut down on plate waste and America's kids cut down on childhood obesity. For Nightline, I'm Jim Avila in Bristol, Virginia.
Another one of our greatest hits was when a school lunch person was suspended for just letting the plate burn, letting the food burn. That suspended employee spoke out in defense, saying they don't report to her, they report to Human Resources and the superintendent. What do I mean by that? Watch. Because these are all lunch complaints. But what could have been done about this? You're about to hear from the superintendent. Here's Liz Hiblot.
They're awful. Pictures of burnt pizzas and something so charred it is hard to identify filled Beth Paulette's camera roll.
What is that?
Those are the ribs, supposedly. Paulette says her sons first showed her the pictures of the cafeteria food at King and Queen Central High School on Monday, and other students confirmed their story.
It just looked so unappetizing. I could not even bring myself to even try it at all.
We brought those concerns to Superintendent Dr. Stanley Jones, who was out of town but spoke to us over the phone.
Would you want the children here eating food that looked like that? Or being served food that looked like that?
Jones admitted there is a problem and confirmed the head of food services for the entire school system was suspended a couple of weeks ago.
If an employee is suspended, generally going to be related to performance.
I have an email that But we talked to that suspended employee, Suzanne Gilbertson, and she says none of this is her fault.
My cafeteria employees have always been told if you're not going to eat it, don't serve it to the students.
Gilbertson says the superintendent put someone in charge of the high school's cafeteria a few months ago, and she says that person is not properly trained. On top of that, Gilbertson says these emails show that she reached out to Dr. Jones about the issue, but she was told she did not have any authority over the new manager.
I was advised that these employees, they don't report to me, as they report to Human Resources and to the superintendent.
Now, the superintendent also told me he expects his food services employees to work together as a team, and if they did, this issue wouldn't exist. He said he would address the overcooked food with his staff immediately. As for Gilbertson, she plans to address the school board with her concerns at their next board meeting. Working for you tonight, I'm Melissa Hippolyte for CBS 6.
Now imagine getting a cold plate. 4 years ago, a mom was outraged over her child's school lunch because of a cold plate. What does Exhibit have to say? Take a look.
On two, a Coweta mom was shocked after she saw this on a child's lunch plate, and immediately other parents started chiming in on social media.
Take a look. 2 Works For You reporter Travis Guillory has the school's response and shows us if this meal meets their guidelines.
So tell me about your school lunch.
Crystal Skinner had lunch with her 3rd grade son at school, but was stunned when his neighbor opened his plate.
I asked my son, I said, what is that he's eating? And he's like, that's the cold plate, Mom. And I said, is that all you get on a cold plate?
A lunch her own son admitted to eating up to 3 days a week. Her first thought?
Where's the rest of your food?
USDA guidelines sets out that you're to offer a half a cup of fruit, half a cup of vegetable, a half a cup of grain, a whole cup of meat, and a cup of milk or juice.
Coweta Public Schools Director of Nutrition explained their guidelines.
So they could take a fruit, a milk, and a juice, and it'd be 3 out of the 5 and still qualify as a reimbursable meal.
We sent the picture of this lunch to registered dietitian Dr. Jennifer Jackson. She said Cheez-Its is not an acceptable whole grain component since the ingredient is wheat flour and not whole grain. However, she went on to say that yogurt is an acceptable meat alternative. Looking at this picture, you have the grain, a vegetable, and a fruit. But wait a minute. The box of raisins in the picture is only 1 ounce. To get a full half-cup serving of fruit, the school would have to put 4 boxes of raisins in the plate.
I just don't think they're putting enough time and effort into what they're actually serving the kids. Like, they're just trying to follow the guidelines and just throwing stuff in there.
Coweta Public Schools stands by their claim that the lunches meet regulations, something Skinner doesn't argue with, but wishes something could be done.
I was unaware that this was going on at the school, so that's what hurt me, because if I knew, I would have been sending a lunch to school with him every day.
In Coweta, Travis Guillory, 2 Works For You.
And that's a little bit harsh. Now it's all about the parents who are complaining about the school lunches.
Right now, social media on fire over school lunches. One mom telling us on Facebook her son came home hungry because he says there wasn't anything good at school. Liza Borman posting on our Facebook page, Michelle Obama, you are starving our kids. Well, tonight our Eric Waxler is taking action to get answers from our local schools about this food fuss.
Is the First Lady really responsible for taking French fries and Coke away from school lunchrooms? Some students we're hearing from say that's what cafeteria workers are telling them. Here's a Facebook post from one parent. My son cannot have soda at school because of Michelle Obama. Those were his exact words. This was at Pinellas Park High. Changes have been in the work nationwide since new federal standards were adopted and championed by Mrs. Obama. Those standards meant to fight childhood obesity, which affects about 17% of children and adolescents. I talked to officials in Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties who say they've been ahead of the curve in altering menus, and most students are already used to the healthier options.
We serve the same stuff, it's just the recipes have changed. The ingredients in the food has changed.
They offer salad and vegetables and lots of fresh fruits and cheeses, so I think it's a good thing.
And as far as French fries, officials say they got rid of fryers some time ago. Vending machines do have a different look because of the smart snack standards. Snack food sold in schools have to be less than 200 calories and contain some nutritional value.
We are actually providing our own vending machines on our campuses, particularly at high schools, maybe middle schools, that provide healthy or healthier drinks as well as food options.
The topic of school lunches is definitely heating up on social media. One Bay Area parent wrote, "It shouldn't be anyone's decisions other than the parents what their children eat or drink." And Mike Boylan posted, "My kids have grown up eating Happy Meals and they have turned out just fine." Eric Waxler, ABC Action News.
All right, finally, our dress codes. One of my favorite let me tell you, one of my favorite ones ever. I got a lot of favorite ones. There was one from months ago to where, you know what? This is like one of my favorite ones. Parents are having students get shamed over dress code violations.
See Chicago's very own WGN Evening News at 5.
Tonight, parents in West Suburban Lombard voicing their outrage over dress code at Glenbard East High School. They say their daughters are unfairly being singled out, forced to wear these bright orange t-shirts.
WGN's Dana Rebick spoke with some of those parents and students, and she's live outside the school with more on this story for us tonight. Dana?
Well, this whole thing really blew up on social media after the first day of school. Yesterday, these parents are upset, saying these girls are being shamed for wearing clothing they feel is modest and appropriate, that they say even teachers are wearing.
I've never had issues with my shoulders being out before, and I also had, it was like an across the shirt where like I had cuffs here, and then it was just this part that was out. So I was told that that was the issue.
Chloe Lynch is wearing a hooded sweatshirt today after she says she, along with dozens of other girls at Glenbard East High School, were told they were violating the school's dress code policy during lunch yesterday.
I guess they have a podium in the lunchroom that they sit at, and they announced that they had these lovely new shirts and they were going to be dress code violating anybody they felt wasn't appropriately dressed. He said it was kind of in a mocking manner.
This is one of the orange t-shirts a female dean made the girls put on. Girls who were wearing tank tops like this, shirts like this, and even this.
I was told that I should cover up because boys were looking at me.
The school's dress code does say clothing considered to be revealing and does not adequately cover the front, back, side, shoulders, or midriff is prohibited on males and females. Parents say when it comes to girls' shoulders showing, it's never been enforced before.
This isn't like years past. This is a totally different year. What my daughter was able to wear last year, she would get dress coded for this year, and there was no warning. So I think that they handled it really poorly.
It made me feel very much so discriminated against in terms of gender, because it was clear there were boys that were wearing tank tops, they were wearing muscle tees where it was not just their shoulders being shown.
One mom sent us these photos of the school's dance team uniforms sanctioned and handed out by Glenbard East. It's all got parents and students confused and upset, even some of the boys.
I feel bad for the girls, and I believe in general it's a sexist policy. The idea that, for one, women can't wear what they want just because, I mean, I wasn't dress coded today and I've been like this all day. And just the idea that men are all pigs who are looking at women throughout the whole day is just such a sexist message that we really shouldn't be perpetuating.
In protest, some boys wore tank tops with these stickers on their shoulders today. After we reached out to the school, the district says we enforce the dress code policy with the boys and girls equally. Regarding social media, many people didn't have the facts. We continue to work tirelessly to educate all students while maintaining a safe and productive learning environment.
I think the way it was handled was very inappropriate, and it made students feel uncomfortable. It made them feel sexualized, and I think that that was wrong.
The district spokesperson says it was less than 10 girls who were asked to wear these shirts, but Chloe, the student we interviewed, said at the end of the day when she went to the dean's office to retrieve her original shirt and get her student ID back, that she saw at least 20 other girls waiting in line with her, and that the dean had a stack of student ID cards about this thick of other girls who were waiting for their clothes. Live in Lombard, Dana Rebick, WGN News.
That completes our greatest hits. Tomorrow, our greatest hits continues with more dress code violations. And more dress code violations, especially suspended from school. Then if you support the school, you're suspended from school. Also more of our greatest hits as we continue on. That's Give Me a Break for this Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. And for all of us here at Give Me a Break and YouTube, good night.